This SQL presentation number 1C is entitled Common Functions, and I'm Dr. James M. Renault from Shawnee State University. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about several common functions found in SQL, and specifically MySQL. These are a few of the built-in functions, and the discussion will include right and left, ltrim and rtrim, upper and lower, and then those are all string functions that deal specifically with manipulating strings. The next two are some date functions. One of them is called now, and one of them is called DATEDIFF. And the last function is called IFNULL. The database structure we'll be using in this discussion can be found here in this entity relationship diagram and also available for download. Check in the description of this video for the link. The first two functions I'd like to discuss are string functions, and they're the functions of right and left. Right returns part of a string from the right side, and left returns part of the string from the left side. Again, both the right and left functions work on strings, and both of them have two arguments. The first argument is the string to be manipulated, and that can be a column, a calculation, a concatenation, and all kinds of other things. And the second value is the length in characters. So left returns the first however many characters of a string, and right returns the last however many characters of a string. Here in this actual SQL example, I take the last three letters of a last name and show it in a column called last, and then I show last name from customer, and you can see that right last name 3 returned the last three letters of each last name: Ong for long, all for all, Ness for Jones, Finn for Griffin. You can see how that works. Left works the same way. I didn't show a demonstration of it here in this SQL statement, but you can experiment on your own with right and left and various different lengths. The next two functions I'd like to discuss are the rtrim and ltrim functions. They also are string functions, and what happens is that rtrim removes the trailing spaces from a string, or the spaces on the right side of a string, and ltrim removes the leading spaces, or the strings on the spaces on the left side of a string. You only pass one value to rtrim or ltrim, and that would be the string to be trimmed. The next two functions I'd like to discuss, so string functions, are the upper and lower function. The upper function and the lower function will turn a string either to all uppercase or all lowercase letters. So the upper and lower will change the letters in a string to either upper and lowercase. Both functions only take one argument, a single string. Here you can see an example of changing all of the last names from uppercase as they're stored in the database table to all lowercase as they are in the lower last name column. Now that we've looked at 6 of the common string functions, I'd like to move into a couple of date and time functions. Date and time and the temporal nature of data is an important part of SQL and data in general. And the first date time function I'd like to show is the now function. The now function is now open close parentheses, and you do not pass now any arguments or any values. What it does is it returns to you the current date and time on the server. It returns it as a string or as a date object, and it is in the ISO format. As an IT person, or an IS person, or a database person or programmer, the ISO format should be common to you, but I just want to go over it again. The ISO format is a 4-digit year, dash 2-digit month, dash 2-digit date, followed by a space, followed by hours, minutes, and seconds. Each is 2 digits. Hours are in 24-hour time, so 2 p.m. would be 14, 11 p.m. would be 23, so you can basically just add 12 to all of the times after 12 noon. The hour between 12 midnight and 1 a.m. is 00. So it's the 0 hour. As you can see, when I generated this presentation, it was at 11 minutes after the 0 hour on the 3rd of November 2019. The DATEDIFF function is an extremely powerful and really handy function to have, because the DATEDIFF will take two dates and return the number of days between them. So, for instance, if our program or this SQL statement was executed on 2019-11/03, and your birthday was 1982, March the 5th, you would be 13,757 days old. If you needed to transfer that or to modify that or to calculate that in years, you would divide by 365.25, and that should give you a decimal number of years that you've been alive. So here we use DATEDIFF and now to calculate a column of how many days ago the shipment was made. So we take the date of now and we subtract the date of the shipment date from the shipment date column, and we show that as the days ago column. The last function I'm going to introduce in this discussion is the IFNULL function. The IFNULL function will change null values into special values or other values. It takes two arguments. The first is the value to test if null, and the second value is what to return if the first argument was in fact null. You can see the syntax there, and in the little example below, you can see that if null null, well, the first value is null, so it's going to return the second value. But in the second column, if null foo, well, foo is not null, so it's not going to return the second value but the first value. So it returns whichever value was not null, the first value or the second value. The IFNULL function comes in really handy when you have a column that may contain a null value, but you don't want it to say null. For instance, here we're generating a list of last name, first name, and phone numbers, but we have a few customers that don't have a phone number on file, and the null is stored in that column representing there is no value for phone number. So instead of it printing null, or instead of it doing something else, I've decided it should print the words not on file for a telephone number. So you can see that Ann Murphy there and Bertha Bryant don't have telephone numbers, so the null value is what's stored in the database, but because of the IFNULL function above, we're generating the string not on file. This concludes presentation 1C, functions. This presentation was copyright 2019 by James M. Renault, PhD. You can contact me at jrenault@shawnee.edu with any questions. This work is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike 4.0 International License, and I would like to say thank you very much for watching.